after having my second bub and struggling to find time to get back into the studio, I had the crazy idea to set myself a challenge, and I set out to paint 100 trees in 100 days. And I had no idea that this was the project that would see me have my very first sellout collection of 100 pieces no less, and see my creative career take off more than I could ever have imagined. In this video, I want to share how the magic of this project came about, how this crazy idea of painting the most pieces I ever have in a collection, whilst being the most time poor I've ever been with 2 young girls at home, completely changed my creative practice, the trajectory of my creative career, and how following your intuition and your crazy ideas can lead you to your purpose. Hi, I'm Nick Everest, a landscape painter from Barwon Heads, and this is the story of my 100 tree project. Where to begin? The 100 Tree Project, which originally was called Painting 100 Trees in 100 Days, was inspired by the fact that I wanted to get back in the studio after having my second daughter, Cleo. I was still on maternity leave and I was really struggling to find time to create, time to paint, and I knew that I was feeling not myself, more anxious, more stressed, not as calm as I usually am. I find that painting is something that really grounds me and calms me, so I wanted to find a way to get into the studio more regularly, and my partner and I decided to make a non-negotiable time each week that I would get in the studio, and that was 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights when both the girls were in bed. It wasn't disrupting their routine at all. But it was a non-negotiable work time for me. Whether I was in there for 20 minutes or an hour, it was up to me. And so from that, I decided that I would need an accountability buddy, because up until that point, anytime I had space to create or get in the studio, I'd chosen to go to sleep instead, which was needed. I needed that. I had a newborn, I was tired, I needed to catch up on sleep, but I was ready to start creating again. So I decided I needed an accountability buddy, someone to paint with, and then I had a crazy idea that my accountability buddy should be going live on Instagram and having my community be my accountability buddy. And going live on Instagram is something that I'm not very comfortable with. That was completely just out of my comfort zone. I'd never done it before, but I just really wanted to give it a try. And I was leaning in to my crazy ideas. I think I'd started reading this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I haven't finished it, but one of the first chapters really talks about, it's all about unlocking your creativity, and one of the first chapters talks about leaning into your crazy ideas, not telling anyone about them, but just pursuing them, because if you tell people about them too soon, then they ask too many questions and the idea gets shut down, basically. So I had the crazy idea and I was really leaning into just going with my crazy ideas. So I was going to go live on Instagram every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. to paint, and then I needed a project, and in about 100 days I was doing an art fair. And so I thought, why not do it painting something, 100 of something, so 100 of something in 100 days, and then trees became my obvious choice. So that's sort of how the project unraveled. Why trees? So I have thousands of images of trees on my phone. I grew up on a farm in northeast Victoria, and we have Sevens Creek running through our farm, and another creek running through our farm, and tall gum trees surrounding our whole property. My dad has always done work on the property to replant out a lot of the native plants and shrubs and grasses that have been lost over the years or removed or culled. He's very into sustainable farming methods and has been for over the last 30 years, slowly regenerating nature corridors, bringing native animals back to our property. And so I grew up planting trees. We planted trees all around our property, all through the creek and riverbeds. And yeah, I think from that, I've always been drawn to gum trees, been drawn to nature and trees in general. I find that being out in nature is where I clear my thoughts and my mind, and often that is around trees. And so yeah, I have thousands of images of trees on my phone, and I thought this was an awesome opportunity to finally get to paint some of them. I've painted many trees in my art practice before, but I had thousands, and I still do, thousands more images that I'd love to paint. So it was an obvious choice. I think the biggest part of the project, or what the consistency of painting each week really taught me, was how valuable it is to have a goal, to have something that you're working towards, and showing up consistently just really continued to fuel that inspiration and that motivation to keep creating. So I think before I had this project, I was struggling to get into the studio because my ideas were a bit muddled and I didn't have a very clear plan of what I was doing. But then as soon as I started the project, I knew exactly what I was doing that week. I would paint the backgrounds or the first layers of 7 trees on the Wednesday night live, and then they would dry overnight, and then the next day I would add in all the details. And then on the Sunday I would share them to my Instagram page and people would vote on their favorite. And then on Monday and Tuesday I would be looking for the next lot of reference images or ideas for that Wednesday night live. So that consistency and that rhythm of my week just really helped to continue that excitement and inspiration to get in the studio and to keep creating. And I think that was just so valuable in work did get hard, or it was really a struggle to get in the studio or to get the pieces finished. I had that end goal I was working towards, and I found that consistency of creating just fueled more and more inspiration, and the amount of ideas I've had for other projects during this project has been amazing. I think it's that whole notion that when you create and you have your doors open to creative ideas and they all just flood in, definitely that consistency helps with that motivation and inspiration to continue creating, for sure. Some of the obvious challenges, maybe they're not obvious, but was getting into the studio at 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. So after maybe the first couple of weeks, our bedtime routine with the 2 girls really was thrown up in the air. They just were going through different sleep changes, and a lot of those Wednesday nights my partner was actually with both of them trying to put them down while I was up in the studio, or one of them had woken up, or it was quite chaotic to get into the studio. Often there was quite a few nights where one of them was awake or both of them were awake when I was painting. So that was a really big challenge and came with a lot of, guilt around, not being there to help. And especially my toddler was going through a phase of really wanting me to put her to bed, and that didn't always work out. So that was really hard and came with a lot of mum guilt for prioritizing myself in my creative work. Even though it was, just that 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights that I was prioritizing myself, that guilt still was rearing its head. And I had to keep reminding myself that when I do create, and after those lives and after adding the details and after sharing the work, it just gave me so much joy, and it really did calm me down and make me a better mum and a better partner. And I'm just very lucky to have a supportive partner and friends and family that I could talk to about those things. So that was easily one of the biggest challenges. The other one was getting all of the pieces finished that week in time. So I would paint the details when my youngest Cleo was had her naps on the Thursday, and if that didn't go to plan, then I was often catching up on adding the details, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, or in snippets of the day where I could. And some weeks I was, down to the wire to get those pieces finished. I think I did miss the Sunday night deadline once or twice. So yeah, that time management was a challenge, especially because a lot of it was outside of my control. If Cleo wasn't sleeping, there's not much I could do about it. And luckily a friend of mine gave me a really beautiful quote that I have used so much in motherhood. You could use it in any area of your life, but it is to surrender to your experience, not your expectation. And I used that notion a lot during this project, where I can't control, whether Cleo sleeps or whether one of the kids are sick or home from daycare or whatever. And so it's just surrendering to whatever my experience is, and making a plan to make up those hours at a different time, especially because I'm on maternity leave. I'm very lucky that I'm not locked into client work or anything that I have to be present for. This was all just about fueling my creativity and pushing myself in my practice during a time when I didn't have deadlines and client work and things to work towards. It was a really freeing time, and it was a way to get back to myself after having my daughter. So they would be probably the 2 of the most challenging sort of things that happened throughout the project. What surprised me the most throughout the 100 days? What surprised me the most there's a few things that come to mind, but definitely how much I enjoyed the lives. Like, I was so nervous in the first few, but then I really came to be looking forward to them. I was surprised that people were coming and interacting and chatting, and I've actually made some really great friends from the lives, purely from them coming each week and chatting and talking with me. And you know, I that was a surprise. I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy them, and even so much so that I'm continuing those lives in my next project, which is called Tree Club. And yeah, that was an unexpected. Another unexpected was probably how much my work evolved and shifted. I really wanted to push my practice with my mark making and playing with different colors and experimenting and being a bit more freer with my work. And I think this project really pushed that because of many reasons. One of the main reasons was because I was so time poor. So my decision making and, you know, experimenting and being flexible, like a lot of the time on Wednesday Night Lives, I would get there and I wouldn't have the right colors mixed up. I wouldn't have the right brushes. There would be so many things missing. I forgot my spray bottle or the medium I use, and so I would just make it work. And because of that, I became a lot freer with what I was doing, a lot looser, like a lot less pressure on the work. You know, I was open the whole time. If a piece didn't work out, I just wouldn't include it. In the end, I included every piece, but I that pressure wasn't on that every piece had to be amazing. Which I think really helped. And then also when I was adding the details, I didn't have time to second guess my decisions. I just had to go with my gut and my instinct on the colors or the, you know, what marks to make. And, you know, I think in the past I'd probably overworked a lot of my work, and this project really didn't allow that. Basically, I had to be in there and done, and so I feel like my practice really moved and shifted, and I was really happy about that. I think that there's two that come to mind again, but a real turning point for me was I went to my family farm halfway through the project and was talking to my dad about his goals around how many more trees he wanted to plant and what he was working on with the farm. And I came up with the idea, or the seed was planted in my brain, of the idea of the 100 trees that I painted, of planting a tree for every painting that sold from that project on the farm, and really helping Dad his goals of what he was working towards. And that seed has now grown to every painting I sell from now on will go towards that tally of trees that I'll plant on the family farm. And then everyone that has joined my tree club, for every month they're in the club, that'll also go to that tree tally. And then next April we'll be planting trees on the family farm, and my dad has actually sectioned off an area that's going to be purely for tree clubbers. And so I just think that that's really special, being able to give back to nature and to give back, you know, to what inspires me, and to sort of be on my journey, I guess, of learning more about what we can be doing to help, you know, with making the world and making the planet a healthier place to be. And yeah, it's been really fun outcome of the project. You know, I've always loved trees and I've loved painting them, and I've painted them in the past, but I think, you know, painting 100 trees, I was researching a lot more and I was diving a little bit deeper and talking with my dad a lot more, and it sort of feels like the project has come full circle, and I know I found a real purpose with my work. And, you know, I don't think I'll only be painting trees forever. I think I'll definitely paint other things, but for right now this just feels like really right. And that was a real turning point and shift in the project, is finding that deeper purpose. And another really big turning point for me was when I released the collection online for a pre-sale, and, you know, 90% or, you know, 91 pieces I think sold out, you know, within 24 hours, but, you know, 70 sold out within an hour or two. So to have, and then that weekend the whole collection sold out. So I've never had an experience like that, where a whole collection has sold out so quickly. That's the first time that's happened in my career. And for that to be 100 pieces, it just blew my mind. And I think it just showed how connected people were to the project and to the work. And that was another thing that really surprised me, was how much people really were connecting and enjoying the project. And yeah, when the pieces sold out, that was a really big indicator that you know, people were really enjoying what I was doing, enjoying the work. And yeah, that was a a big turning point as well. So the 100 Tree Project then evolved into my next project, which is called Tree Club. And that came about because after painting 100 trees, I just had so many ideas of wanting to turn them into big trees like that one. And something I didn't do during the 100 Tree Project is I love storytelling through my art. And the 100 Tree Project really was about mark making and colours and experimentation and getting a feel of getting people to feel something when they looked at the work. But with Tree Club and being able to paint big trees, I'm able to pour more of my story and the lessons I've learned in life, and things that I'm really relate to, or things that I've thought about when I've been out in nature or been surrounded by trees. And I've been able to do that storytelling through my paintings as well. Yeah, that's a really fun next chapter of the 100 Tree Project. But with painting big, that obviously takes a lot longer. And wanting to be at home with the girls still as much as possible, I knew that this project was going to be a lot longer than the 100 Tree Project in 100 days. So I decided to create Tree Club, which is I'll be painting a big tree like this once a month for the next 12 months. And then every month I'll be sending out a small print of that tree to my Tree Club members. They will go towards the tally of planting trees, like I mentioned. And I also, something I haven't mentioned, but in the 100 Tree Project, every week I had people sending me in their favourite trees, and then I would pick one and send it back to them. I was doing a giveaway tree each week, and that was honestly one of the best parts of the project. Hearing people's stories of why they love trees, or why they love that particular tree, why it was important to them. It was really just moving and really fun to be able to gift my art to people. And I really want to continue that with Tree Club. So I'll be doing a monthly giveaway. And for the inaugural round, I'm doing a big giveaway, a big size. And then when we reach some milestones like 100, 200, 500, that sort of thing, I'm going to be doing big giveaways too. And I'm so excited to be able to continue that through Tree Club as well, because that was such an enjoyable part of the process. So there's the monthly print, the giveaway, adding to the tree tally, and then at the end of next year I will be exhibiting the whole collection, and people in Tree Club will have first access to that. So it's just crazy how this one project of me wanting to get back into the studio regularly and sort of spur of the moment for following my crazy ideas has then led into this next project, which I already have big ideas for the following year, and it just seems to have really snowballed. And I'm just really grateful to that. I followed my intuition and followed my gut and just went for it. And yeah, it really feels like I found my purpose with my art, and that feels really special. When people look at my tree paintings, I want them to feel all different types of things, really. Something I experimented in the 100 Tree Project was changing the background colours of the trees. And it was so interesting to see how that changed the whole feel of the piece, and what colours came through, like whether I used yellow and there was more light in the piece, or whether I used, browns or purples and it was more calming, or I used like a lime green, and everyone that has seen that piece talks about it being very calming. So I think what I wanted people to feel is to be able to bring their own memories and stories into my work, and just for them to elicit an emotion. Like I want it to be beyond, that's beautiful and that's nice mark making. I wanted them to feel nostalgia, or think of a memory, or be reminded of something. And yeah, I think that the colours and the light and the marks has really helped to elicit that deeper feeling and emotion in the people that came across the project. And I had such lovely feedback about that. So that's been really amazing. So yeah, the next thing for me is Tree Club. So that's what I'll be working on for the next 12 months. I'm so excited to be sharing these big trees once a month, and to also be taking people along the ride of me planting these trees on my family farm, learning about Dad's work. I'm going to do an interview and share about what he's been working on the past 30 years, what he's currently learning, and sort of bring people along for the ride about what I'm learning in this space as well. And yeah, I'm really excited. I have a few other projects happening in the background, but my big project is going to be Tree Club. and sharing more of behind the scenes of that with you all as well. Obviously, I will have my 3.5 and 1-year-old with me as much as possible. I will have a couple of studio days next year, so a little bit more time opening up, but I'm really determined to be at home with them as much as possible while they're this little. I think every single person that I've talked to about motherhood has said to really soak up these years, and I don't want to be missing them. So I'm just so grateful for everyone's support, because, you know, supporting my work and following along with my journey just really helps me be at home with my girls for as long as possible, and that's just such a gift. So yeah, I'm so grateful for that. I just want to say thank you so much for following along with the project. For those people who, you know, came along for the whole ride, were coming to the lives, were liking my posts, were voting on their favorite trees. If you've just found the project, thank you so much for watching until this point. I hope you enjoy my work, and I hope you enjoy what we're doing, and I hope you can see the vision and see where this is heading. And I would love to have you jump on the ride, you know, with Tree Club and be part of this next chapter. I honestly just feel like this is just the beginning, and I just can't wait to see where it goes. And I'm just so grateful for all the support, so thank you.